everyone, Hamer back again with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm doing Season 4, Episode 25. We're almost done. And this one is called The Choice. So we start out with Jim going to a flower shop's office for instructions this time. The mission: Teresa, the Grand Duchess of the country of Trent, is being manipulated by a power-mad mystic named Emile Vautrain, who is totally not Rasputin, okay? And the IMF must stop him. No dossier seen here. It's just a regular A-team. In the apartment, we hear about some of the other people who are in the picture for this episode, and we see some pre-prepared squibs that will pay off later. Off we go to the Duchy, where the IMF has prepared a scary illusion show attended by Vautrain and his henchman Colonel Benet. Paris sets himself up to look like Vautrain. That didn't take a whole lot of effort. And Jim shows the crowd an electric chair, with Colonel Benet confirming that it is the real deal. Paris is set in the chair after being set up with lifelike protective gloves by Barney, and Jim throws the switch, with Vautrain watching intently. First Minister Picard expresses his displeasure to the Duchess about Vautrain and the future of their country, but she will hear none of it, continuing to be manipulated by Vautrain's drugs and psychology. Meanwhile, Willie and Barney bring a box into a museum, which looks exactly like the Royal Palace from the Falcon episode, because it is, saying that they are working for Picard. The box contains a hidden Jim, who starts setting up some wiring on the stage podium, but is forced to abandon it when guards show up. Jim hides and is able to mislead the guards away from where he was working, or so he thinks. Meanwhile, Benet's men pick up Paris as well, and the two are taken to Vautrain's office, where he talks to them about how they do the trick and why Paris resembles him so much by removing some of the hair and makeup. Vautrain demands answers about what Picard wanted them to do. Jim starts to talk, Paris shuts him up. Benet figures that Picard planned to kidnap Vautrain and have Paris take his place, surviving the chair and then exposing Vautrain as a fraud by revealing the secret of the trick. Paris puts a small bug on the chair in the office while he's talking. Vautrain figures it's not that simple and has Jim and Paris locked up for now. Deducing correctly that the cell is bugged, Jim and Paris provide the expected dialogue for Benet's benefit, admitting that the plan was to have Paris as Vautrain survive the trick and then say he's retiring to a monastery, so Picard should be Teresa's successor. Teresa asks Vautrain to make her stronger so she can attend the ceremony at the museum tomorrow, so that she can tell the people herself that the rumors about Vautrain are not true. Benet, of course, passes the information he overheard onto Vautrain, who tells Teresa she's forbidden to go into the ceremony due to a premonition he has about it. Vautrain tells Jim and Paris that he wants them to go through with the plan, but with a change. Vautrain says he'll substitute himself for Paris and turn the tables on Picard, and Paris agrees for more money and insists that Jim must do the wiring as he doesn't trust anybody else. Benet tells Vautrain that Jim and Paris will have to be eliminated afterwards, of course, so they don't talk. Willie and Barney, of course, are listening the whole time and manage to sneak onto the palace grounds, with Willie standing guard as Barney sneaks in through a window to set up the squibs in Teresa's sitting room, having to hide as Teresa is wheeled in to get something, and a guard shows up as well. Fortunately, they don't notice the extra squib sitting on a table, and Barney is able to get back out. Vautrain discusses the upcoming plan with Paris before showtime and instructs Benet's henchman Goujon to liquidate Jim and Paris backstage once the show's over. Barney and Willie get dressed as officers and commandeer an official car, allowing them to get backstage with a tranquilizer gun that brings down Vautrain and Goujon, who they hide in a closet. Paris, as Vautrain, gives a speech on Teresa's behalf, throwing the lever on the podium and tossing it to the ground, where it shows off an impressive display of sparks. As soldiers restrain Picard, Benet points out the wiring and says it carried 10,000 volts. It was obviously an attempt on Vautrain's life. Paris, as Vautrain, shrugs it off and says he feels sorry and compassion for whoever did it, heading away backstage and joining the rest of the IMF. For Benet's benefit, they show Jim and Paris on the ground dead, and Barney and Willie take the bodies away. But Benet decides to go and get Vautrain's cloak from the closet. Fortunately, he does so without noting Goujon slumped unconscious. Vautrain wakes up in a moving truck with Jim lying next to him. Jim wakes up and acts as though he's Paris. and the plan didn't work. But Vautrin sets him straight, figuring that they have both been double-crossed. Picard again begs Teresa to reconsider her choice about turning the country over to Vautrin. But she is sure that what happened to Vautrin is a miracle. It's a sign from above, and she wants Picard to resign. Paris, as Vautrin arrives at her room, asking Picard not to leave, stay for a bit. Guard Varney allows Jim to knock him out, and then Jim allows Vautrin to knock him out so that he can take the IMF truck and leave for the obvious destination. He shows up with a gun, and we get the old which one is the real one trope. Picard goads them, saying that the real Vautrin shouldn't be afraid of anything, let alone bullets. So Paris approaches the real Vautrin, who fires. Paris sets off the squibs and the bullets are blanks, making it appear that he's taken a shot to the abdomen but survived. Paris warns the guards as Vautrin runs, and a gunshot is heard. Paris tells Teresa that things aren't always as they seem, and tells her that everything that has happened is a sign that he must return to the monastery. Exactly the story that he told when they were in the prison cell. He tells Teresa she will find the strength to carry on by herself, and Picard should be her successor. In the hallway, Picard thanks Paris, whoever he is, for what he's done, and the IMF head away. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of a D+. I struggled with that grade a little bit, but I think that that's what I have to settle on, looking at the objective facts. Let me start with what is good. What's good is that this is a really good showcase for Leonard Nimoy. He gets a lot of time on screen for this episode. I would say that he likely demanded it because he probably started to hate being cast as a mask. And if you don't understand what that means, basically what it means is that, much like Martin Landau as Roland Hand, his character spent a lot of time being played by other people because, the whole gist of many episodes is that Roland or Paris or someone will impersonate someone else. And obviously that person's real life actor is the one who's on screen. So Nimoy has spent a lot of time off screen while somebody else has played the role of Paris impersonating that person. Here, this is a creative way of allowing him to get a lot of time on screen. Okay, so from that standpoint, it's good. It's not that the plot is boring, I would say. The episode has enough kind of entertainment in it to not be completely terrible. But, that's pretty much what I can say about it. Let me move on to what's kind of not so good. Starting out with kind of a look back. This episode is basically a redo of the episode Robot, okay, which was also a Nimoy showcase. Nimoy played multiple roles in that episode, and it was basically the same thing, where there is some figure in a foreign country who's involved in a hostile takeover of the government, let's say, just to kind of keep it simple. And that person just happens to have Leonard Nimoy's face, right? So that makes things a little bit simpler for the producers and the makeup people and all of that kind of stuff. The plots are so similar as to virtually be identical, except that this one isn't as good. Okay, plain and simple. Here we have a Rasputin-like figure. In the other one, we had somebody who was kind of a duplicate of the premier who had recently died. Whatever. It's not a problem to have that sort of plot in and of itself. It's fine. It's just that I really don't see, despite the different type of figure, the Rasputin-like figure, there's really nothing new here. I can't really look at this episode and say, oh, wow, yeah, that uncovers some new ground that we haven't kind of seen before. It really isn't there. In just to kind of finalize a little bit of a look back, I remember, I don't think it was in the dossier, it might have been on another online review or something like that, where somebody says there's even a bit of a callback to the episode The Heir Apparent, which gosh, is borderline blasphemy to me, trying to, compare those two episodes. But with the last scene at the end, I guess you could kind of, connect some dots there. The ending scene with Picard, you're thanking Paris for kind of saving his country and saving his government. It is a little bit of a callback to that scene in The Heir Apparent where the Archbishop thanks Barbara Bain as Celine, saying, whoever you are, thank you for what you've done for my country. Okay, so but I dare say that that's completely where any relationship between these two episodes starts and ends. Okay. The plot, while I said was kind of entertaining, it is kind of ordinary. It's borderline cookie cutter, especially since we recently had the episode Robot just some 10 or 15 episodes ago. And unfortunately, this one is eminently predictable. Not just because of what happened in Robot, but you can see where it's going when you have this kind of, when basically when there's a duplicate involved. You know that the IMF is going to pull some sort of switcheroo. That's just what's going to happen. The reason that this plot isn't nearly as good as Robot is because of the way that the villain reacts to the IMF plan. In Robot, the antagonist, played by Malachi Throne, latched on to the IMF's plan. The IMF in that episode, you can go back and watch that review, but basically what they did is they brought in a ventriloquist act. And of course, Malachi Throne's character says, oh, I know what they're going to do. They are going to impersonate Gemini and try and supplant, my Gemini and supplant my plan. And so what he does is he co-opts their plan, saying, well, gee, that's actually a better plan. Here, it's exactly the same thing. The difference is that in Robot, the antagonist actually kind of did some due diligence and says, okay, wait, are these guys legit? Why are they here all of a sudden? What's going on? And he at least did some due diligence. Here, Vautrain does absolutely no due diligence, okay? I would argue that, unfortunately, as a villain, Vautrain has a level of lameness, which basically has its own orbit, okay? I commented in the previous review for Death Squad that it was basically the same thing. There you also had lame villains who were just doing what they were doing, killing people and taking their valuables just out of pure greed. Here, Vautrain has the same thing. He's being opportunistic, and he has this opportunity to take over an entire country. And I believe that the treasury was mentioned more than once. So he's basically looking to loot the country. And, and he thinks that he's infallible because of what he's been able to do to the Duchess. So, when somebody has that level of self-confidence that the IMF can exploit, it doesn't really become difficult for them. All they have to do is just kind of hand them over the idea and say, hey, here's what you should do. And they just say, yeah, of course, I'll do that because, I can make it work. And, so the story basically writes itself after that. I don't really think that there's a whole heck of a lot else to say. There's a decent supporting cast in this episode, including, Sid Haig, who plays Goujon, Alan Bergman, who plays Benet. The other actor, Arthur Franz, who plays Picard, is all right, although he doesn't get to do a whole heck of a lot. Nan Martin as kind of, the Grand Duchess Teresa. A lot of these, they're fine actors, but the characters that they play are just so kind of one-dimensional, I would say. There's really not much to them, and there's really no character development or anything like that in this episode where you could say that, oh yeah, this person did a really fine job. Not the fault of the actors, it's the characters. And I think that's all I have to say for this one. We're almost done with season 4. We've got one more left, and then I'll move to season 5, where things will be a little bit different, and we'll discuss that when the time comes. Thank you, as always, for watching. Please like this review. Please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and please leave your comments, and I'll see you next time.